Hey everybody, thanks for stopping in and getting a live update on Hurricane Delta. I'm Chief Meteorologist Leslie Hudson. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here on this late Tuesday night. It is about 10:20, just shy of that Eastern Standard Time, 9:20 Central Time. And of course, if you guys have been keeping up to date on Delta, you know what we're dealing with, a dangerous Category 4 hurricane. And all indications are that this could get very close to a Category 5 tomorrow before we start to see some leveling off here. We certainly hope that will be the case. But a lot of things we want to let you know about tonight and still have some time, you guys. Of course, it is about to hit somewhere between Cozumel and Cancun, Mexico in these next several hours through the overnight and early tomorrow morning before it reemerges into the Gulf of Mexico and becomes the United States problem thereafter. So, of course, we're going to try and get you updated on all of that and let you know the best case scenario and the worst case so you guys can make plans accordingly. So we'd like to begin with a look at the app first, of course, because we want you guys to be fully engaged with the app and utilize it to help you if you're in the northern Gulf Coast and you may have to be dealing with Delta in a few days. So as we take a look at the app, a couple of things that I want to point out. So you can see the compact but very, very well organized and extremely powerful hurricane. So the actual eye diameter itself is only about 5 miles across. This is a pretty small eye, one of the smaller ones we've seen. And when you get a small compact hurricane like this, you guys, it's very easy to get big swings in intensity and in the forecast track even, because these are very difficult to forecast because of the sheer size of these small compact storms. And that was the case today. We talked about rapid intensifying yesterday, which Delta did, and then did it again today. Likely going to do it some more tonight and tomorrow before it starts to directly interact with southeastern Mexico, and then before it gets into the Bay of Campeche. So one thing I want to note there, you see all those reds on the east side and the south side of the hurricane. That's where most of those dangerous Category 4 winds have been. We've seen the eye exposed in some of the recon flights early in the day today. We noticed that the southern tip of the eye was actually open, but that is not unusual, of course, when you're dealing with fluctuations in a hurricane. But we're going to start to see more of that wraparound with those reds, I think, once this emerges into the Gulf of, whoops, look at that, my earring fell out. Once it emerges into the Gulf of Mexico sometime tomorrow. So let me toggle on the wind layer feature here, the hurricane tracker feature. This is an upgrade, but I just wanted to show it to you guys. You do not need this to track hurricanes whatsoever. The wind layer really is a great resource if you're trying to track hurricanes, and it shows you so accurately and with such precision what's going on. So as I put this on, and again, you can see the official path from the Hurricane Center, but we haven't seen a lot of deviations from this today. That's been the good news. I was a little concerned because I know these rare and small hurricanes like this that are so powerful really can alter the trajectory and the ultimate destination, but we haven't seen that with the official path from the Hurricane Center, and we believe that that's going to continue on its normal course, or at least its projected course, which would be unfortunately towards Louisiana again as we head into late Thursday and into Friday. So let's switch things over, Matt, and we'll take a quick look at our live radar. Matt Highland, of course, driving the bus for me tonight, and you can see our 5 live radar scans. I don't expect to see anything here. I just like to show this off the top just to let you know the scans that we're keeping an eye on across the southeastern U.S. And as we head into probably Thursday, we're going to start to see a lot more of that pan out. A look at the infrared again shows that deep black and the red surrounding the center of Delta, and these cloud tops are about 60,000 feet in the atmosphere. Now we have some video from earlier today. This is what was from the P3 Orion, known as Kermit. There's also Miss Piggy. That's another common aircraft that does a lot of the recon flights, but this was Kermit aboard Kermit, and there's actually 3 radars that are on board Kermit, and the hurricane hunters use that radar. You can see the video here of them trying to penetrate the eye wall and get those critical readings to feed back to the National Hurricane Center, so the Hurricane Center can extrapolate the data and come up with these forecasts. But Kermit was out there this afternoon. I'm going to show you some recon data from around 7:30 p.m. Earlier this evening. They're currently in there right now as well, and we'll probably see that, of course, in this updated package that we're expecting at 11 p.m. Eastern Eastern time. So just about 36 minutes from now, we should have some more info from the National Hurricane Center. But again, the actual flight itself, according to the pilots here, said that it was a little bit of a bumpy ride. Of course, when you're going through 145 mile per hour winds, we would suspect nothing less. But boy, it is such an incredible job that these folks do aboard these aircraft. Okay, back over to the infrared. And again, we can see just about how far away. Let me kind of put a little directional on here, and we'll kind of guesstimate how far that center is. You may have been reading on social media. I'm going to wait till that loop tries to stop. And it's about 140 miles, give or take, from Cozumel, and then Cancun's up in here. Let me grab my pointer. I know a lot of, this is such a huge resort destination for so many people in the United States. So Cancun up here, here's Cozumel. And actually we do have some video from Cozumel from this weekend now. If we can show you that, Matt, that was, of course, when they were dealing with Gamma. The winds with Gamma were about 70 miles an hour. So we're going to about double that with Delta. And of course, we think the storm surge is going to be significantly higher with Delta, even though a lot of that northeast wind, the northeastern eye wall rather, should stay off the coast of the southeastern tip of Mexico. It's really hard to pinpoint that kind of accuracy at this stage in the game. We certainly hope that's the case, because they already got beat up by a Gamma, and of course Gamma is going to be like a picnic compared to what they're going to get with Delta here tonight and tomorrow. So the general thinking is that Delta will continue to move towards the west-northwest on the south side of a ridge of high pressure, and then we're going to start to see a turn towards the north, and the timing of that turn is what's so critical. So here's a look at the latest info from the National Hurricane Center. This was from 8 p.m. This evening, so you can see that particular locator was about 180 miles, so a couple of hours ago, so the math is about right. I did about 145 east-southeast of Cozumel. Winds sustained at 145, the pressure down to a very low 956, and moving pretty quickly west-northwest at 17. So it's going to get over that southeastern tip of Mexico relatively quickly and be back into the Gulf by tomorrow, late morning probably, and then it's going to have several days, 2 days, maybe 2.5 days to strengthen before it makes a second landfall across the U.S. And all indications are, again, that we're talking about a Louisiana storm at this point. So here is a look at the path from the National Hurricane Center, and you'll notice they're getting into that very dangerous category 4 strength of back into that strength by, say, Thursday and Friday, and then weakening a bit. And there's a couple of reasons why that is. However, what this is not showing is that we also expect to see Delta grow in size. So not in power, but in size. So remember, I talked about this yesterday, those dangerous hurricane force winds only extend out about 10 miles or 10 to 15 miles from the center, and tropical storm force winds only extend out about 70 miles or so. So this is a small in size hurricane, but very lethal hurricane in its structure. But it's expected once it gets into the Gulf of Mexico and it hangs out there for a couple of days, a couple of things are going to go on. Hurricanes are often like lizards or snakes that shed their skin and can have replacements, basically. So their skin sheds and they get a new skin. But my analogy is trying to fumble through with this is that we see eye wall replacement cycles with these hurricanes. So we think that Delta will undergo probably at least 2 more eye replacements, maybe more, but probably more like 2 before it makes a U.S. landfall. And oftentimes what happens is that eye expands, and so does the circumference of the hurricane. So we're expecting the hurricane to get larger and get more powerful, but we're going to see fluctuations in that. And we also believe, and I'm going to show you the sea surface temperatures in just a second, that the sea surface temperatures are going to be a direct player in weakening Delta a bit, as well as it's going to be getting some southwest wind shear, and that's going to help disrupt that core a little bit. So a couple of things are going to happen between now and Friday that will do well for the United States, or at least better scenario for the United States, but don't think that there is certainly, not a serious situation that's undergoing and ongoing across the Caribbean and soon to be the Gulf of Mexico. So here is the sea surface analysis. So I'm going to plot the numbers on for you. And, I talked about this yesterday. So in the channel between the Yucatan tip and the tip of Cuba, right in here is some really, really warm, just bath-like water. This particular region right here is what we're honed in on. So when I plot some of these sea surface temperatures, so 88 degrees, you guys, that is like a bath. That is just prime breeding for this hurricane, and that's why we're expecting it to get even stronger. Now you can see some gradations and the contouring here. So as I get a little further out towards the central and the western Gulf of Mexico, we go to about 85 degrees Fahrenheit, 87 here. So I'm just going to toggle on some random ones. And then generally on this path, if we're thinking it's going to be towards Louisiana, gets a little bit cooler, not by much. 83 is still incredibly warm and plenty of energy to use to keep this hurricane at a category 3 or stronger. And you can see some of the temperatures here are a little bit lower, but anywhere from 85 to 86 degrees, 87 degrees Fahrenheit. But it's that window of that 88. Some of the water there in the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico is the warmest in the world, as well as the Gulf Stream that's over by Florida. So anytime we get a cyclone that's in this region, we really get concerned about how strong these are going to get, because there's so much buoyant air here. There's so much energy in the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico for this hurricane to feed off of. So I'm going to show you two models. These are the models that if you are a weather geek and you like to look at the model forecast, I'm going to show you the benchmarks, the Euro and the GFS. This is the Euro first. The blue path, of course, there is the official path from the hurricane center, and then the black line here is the center of the eye. But again, we don't focus on that, and we're generally just going to be keeping an eye on the blue path here. And then, of course, here is the precip, or the future cast, the data, and how it's been interpolated so far today with all the recon data. And by the way, the National Weather Service has started initiating additional weather balloons, which they do when there's a landfalling hurricane that's threatening the United States. So we're going to get even more data in the air closer to the United States that takes sampling of the atmosphere besides the recon. So that all goes into this big melting pot that goes into these supercomputers that uses air patterns, dew points, relative humidities, cold fronts, warm fronts, jet stream, all those kind of factors, and it takes that into account, besides the fact that we're getting this data from the Hurricane Center. So the Euro here, you can see, is a little left of the actual path. This is just the run. I will say yesterday it was more aligned with the National Hurricane Center, but here you can see generally it would be, this one's deflecting a little bit more towards Texas, eastern Texas, and western Louisiana. Again, guidance material, you guys. This is not set in stone, but I do like to show these because these are the models that you'll hear most often, and the two models that really do the most reliable job that meteorologists use when we're trying to help predict these things. So here's a look at the GFS, again, the American model, if you will. And again, this one's very tightly clustered with the official path from the Hurricane Center. You can see it's just smack dab on top of that black line as we head into Thursday and into Friday. And then again, some of the timing of this, a lot of folks have been asking me, okay, when's it going to hit? It looks like on the current path that we would be talking about Friday night, maybe 9, 10, 11 p.m., maybe as late as midnight. That's really going to be fine-tuned between now and Thursday. So once we get within that 24 to 36 hour window, then we're going to have a much better idea of the exact timing of the landfall. But unfortunately, this hurricane season, we've had a lot of nighttime landfalls, which is not, of course, good for multiple reasons. People, it's dark out, it's hard to see debris, it's hard to see dangerous hazards in front of you, and it's hard for responders to help you because of the natural inherent darkness of the sky. But there is no rhyme or reason to that. There is no predisposed notion that hurricanes hit always at night. That, of course, is not the case. They can hit during the day and oftentimes do. But it seems that the U.S. this season has had a lot of nighttime landfalls. So it looks like it's going to be Friday night around 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening. Here's a look at the modeling data. And I talked about this yesterday. Again, don't put all your eggs in this basket because this often changes as well. The models have shown a consistent Louisiana impact over the last several days, but we've had a couple of outliers, some that have taken it over Mississippi, some that have taken it over Alabama, and a few outliers over Florida and Texas. Of the two outliers between a Florida panhandle scenario and a Texas scenario, I think Texas definitely is more in play at this point than Florida's panhandle is, but that has yet to be seen. But I do think that the trends that I've noticed with the modeling data and the samplings and the components of the atmosphere that we're looking at, I do think that we could be talking more of if we're going to see a shift, we're going to see a shift closer to Texas, then we're going to see a shift closer towards the east. So let me get past that and show you the current watches and warnings from the Hurricane Center. You can see them there. Of course, we will not see watches posted for the U.S. probably until sometime tomorrow late. Typically, we get the watches issued about 48 hours before, and we get the warnings issued typically about 24 hours before. So if you do the math, sometime tomorrow night would be, the watches would be posted probably around 11 p.m., maybe 5 p.m. tomorrow. And then we'd see the warnings on sometime on Thursday. So that'll give you a better estimate in terms of timing, but it also means that you're running out of time if you are in this area to make those preps. So as I mentioned, there's been several flights inside Delta today. I showed you the video from late this afternoon. This particular recon data that I'm showing you is from 7. Oh no, I put the noon one in here. I had one from 7 p.m. in here, but this one showed those winds that were topped out around 128 miles an hour. So the pressure was 957 this afternoon, and the diameter of that eye 5 miles across. And then that other pass that you see, so there's two passes here. They do multiple passes, by the way, when they're in the hurricane. You can see the formation here. They come in from MacDill. Not MacDill, they come in from Lakeland, and they do a formation around the hurricane, come back, and then they do another flight that comes and does this configuration. So there's multiple configurations. This is the one that I was talking about that was really verifying with that big jump in the increase in numbers at 128 at noon today. And then this particular pass, pressure was at 953, so even lower, but the current wind speed at that particular time was at 44. So the one I wanted to show you was the one from 12:30 today. And of course, they're in there now, and we should get an update. I won't be having this live stream up until 11, but we will have an update, and we will show you those updated graphics at 11 when they come down. So they're in there currently getting all the data, and it's just like a football game, a nail biter of a football game when you're down to those last seconds. The Hurricane Center is constantly looking at the very latest data, sometimes up until a minute or less before they issue the product. It's amazing what they'll do. They just continue to ingest all this data and all this analysis, and then they type up an official forecast and a discussion for us to read, and the official forecast with the plots. It's fascinating to see how, in real time, how they handle these deadlines, because they know that most newscasts around the country run at 5 a.m., at 11 a.m., or at noon time, and then 5 p.m. and 11 p.m. So that's why those discussions are released at those particular times of night, because 11 p.m. is a big time slot for the local news. So the Hurricane Center tries to give the latest information before people go to bed. So here is a look at the infrared, by the way. So this is looking from the top of the atmosphere down, like if you were looking through a big tube. This is what we're looking at. A couple things that we pointed out yesterday, I'll point out again today, kind of centered over here. You can't see it real great, but there is a ridge of high pressure that is over the Gulf of Mexico and Florida. And then we've got this trough of low pressure. Let me find my arrows. So you can kind of see it carved out here. Oh, this is not the one I wanted, but anyways, you get the idea. So you can see that there's a trough of low pressure, and this is the one that's really going to be kind of telling the tale here between now and Friday in terms of timing and times of that turn. So we're going to watch to see how much time Delta, I have a hard time with these Greek letters for some reason this year. How much it stays in the Gulf of Mexico before it makes its turn. So it's expected to stay towards the west northwest. But as that low pressure center comes closer to central and eastern Texas, it's going to start to nudge Delta further towards the north, and then we're going to see this ridge of high pressure retrograde or go back this way. So that's going to kind of open the door, if you will, the big gate, if I like to call it, for Delta to kind of swing between the ridge and the trough and go northward or poleward. Well, the question is, again, how long does it stay in the Gulf, and how long does it stay on that west-northwest track? So the modeling has shown that we're going to see a west to northwest movement for several more days, which is going to make it look very bad. It's going to, if you're living in Texas, you're going to say, oh my God, I see this thing going this way. But you've got to remember that we're expecting that trough to pick it up and turn it north. But how close it gets to Texas before that turn happens is yet to be seen. None of the data so far, as of tonight, at 10:40 p.m. is saying that we're going to get a Texas hurricane. But as I said at the top of this, you can't rule out any scenario at this stage in the game. What I'm more concerned about, and I always tell people about this, not to focus on that actual center, because this storm is expected to grow in size, as I mentioned. So as it's this strong Category 3 or 4 hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico, it's going to be taking all of this Gulf water with it and carry it northward. So even if it stays as a Category 3, the level of storm surge is going to likely stay in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 feet, give or take. That's just based on histology, not on anything that the Hurricane Center has put out yet. But based on a Category strong 3 or a weak Cat 4, we can expect a storm surge in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 feet, usually. So that's what worries me. Even if this weakens, what's its forecast to do, that storm surge is still going to be affecting more people than it is going to affect Cozumel tonight and tomorrow. So that does mean that potentially eastern Louisiana, southern Mississippi, southern Alabama, the exact same areas that dealt with Sally and Laura, are likely going to be dealing with a similar storm surge that we got with Laura with Delta. So that's the big concern. That's not, again, for certain, but I am concerned of all the scenarios that we've been talking about, that is going to be a bigger player for that area of the Gulf Coast, because I do think this is going to grow in size, not necessarily strength, but it's going to stay a strong hurricane, but I think it's going to grow in size. So in terms of rain, there's what we expect right now, 3 to 5 inches, a good estimate across parts central Louisiana. Remember, this is only 3 days from now, so expect to see that rain shield continue to expand northward and eastward as we head in time. 5 to 7 across Louisiana. That's a conservative number. We saw, up to 20 inches in some pockets of Louisiana with, I think it was Laura, maybe Sally. I apologize, I don't remember, but I think it was Laura. So we're talking about big time rain as we head through the end of this week, and that number, of course, will change. So there's a weak stalled front that's over Florida, not a direct player in this forecast at all, but there's that ridge. I kind of have it positioned north of the southeastern U.S., but that's one of the players, and then the trough is the major player in terms of pulling Delta northward and then eventually northeast, because that trough is going to continue to head across the central United States and help deflect or turn Delta towards the right or back towards the southeast. I did read in one of my live updates from earlier in the day, someone was asking what can the Carolinas expect. So as of today, I think it's a little bit too early to be saying, okay, this is what you can expect North Carolina, South Carolina, because really we've got to focus on the northern Gulf Coast right now. But I will answer to say that on this current path, I think that you're definitely going to get some rain out of this, maybe some minimal winds. We've seen a very similar path like this all hurricane season across the Gulf Coast. It's just incredibly ironic that we're talking yet again a potential landfall in Louisiana in the northern Gulf Coast. And I do think, at least at this point, we're talking about a scenario that would impact the southeast with rain and wind, but not at the level that we've seen with some of these other hurricanes. That's yet to be seen. We'll see how that all plays out. Let me put the infrared back up real quick. And I'm going to see if there are any questions that I can take a quick look at here. Okay, so John Curtis on YouTube is asking, is Delta rapidly intensifying? And yes, Delta rapidly intensified today and rapidly intensified yesterday. The criteria is it has to have an uptick of at least 24 miles per hour stronger within 24 hours and a drop in pressure of 24 millibars, which we have seen. So it's definitely rapidly intensified for sure. And then let's see. Someone's asking, is it getting stronger? My mom's in Cancun. The people there are saying it's going to be a Cat 5. So that is definitely a possibility. I don't think we have quite enough time to get it to a Cat 5 before it impacts Cancun or Cozumel. It's a little bit too early to say. I say this a lot too, whether we're talking about a strong Cat 4 or a weak Cat 5, the level of destruction is very similar. So unfortunately, the people that are in Cancun and in Cozumel are going to be directly in the crosshairs of a lot of the worst that Delta has to deliver. Now, it depends on how close it gets to those two areas of Mexico. I think it's going to thread the needle right between the two, right between Cancun and right between Cozumel. So of the two, Cancun is going to have a greater impact because Cancun's going to be on that northeastern quadrant of that eye wall where those dangerous Category 4 winds of 145 miles an hour. The official projection from the Hurricane Center puts it at 155. So 157 and above starts the Cat 5. So we're right there. We're knocking on the door of potentially of a Cat 5. But the structural damage is almost identical from a high-end Cat 4 to a low Cat 5. So I always say, please don't focus on the number. It is extremely dangerous, whether it's a high-end Cat 4 or a low-end Cat 5. The storm surge is going to be the same as well. So again, very dangerous. Okay, I'm sorry, Matt. What was that? Oh, can that spawn tornadoes? Oh, yeah, I see it now. Okay, yeah, thank you. Yes, that is also a possibility. So anytime we have a landfalling cyclone, tornadoes are always a possibility. But because of the fast movement of Delta and the fact that it's not expected to interact with the tip of the Yucatan very long, I think that risk for at least Mexico is not going to be as high as it's going to be for the U.S. I think that without a doubt, without question, we will have a risk for tornadoes anywhere from, on the current path, from Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama over to Florida. So that's the nuances in that forecast won't really come into view until probably Thursday, till we really have a clear idea of exactly where it's going to come in at. But again, it's usually on that northeastern side. That's the dirty side that we always say, the most dangerous side of the hurricane, and that's likely where we can see the most dangerous weather. So here is. Hang on one second, Matt. I think that's the new update from, you can ask me one more time in a second. So I think this is the new info from the Hurricane Center. Winds now at 130, the pressure 960. Let me just double check here because usually our WSI graphics do a great job of immediately spitting out the latest info once the Hurricane Center puts it out. Hang on, let me check. I just want to make sure that I'm telling you the correct info. Okay, I don't have it officially on their website, but that is different. So I think that we do have new information that the product hasn't pushed yet to maybe their website, but that is definitely different from what we had earlier. So, you may have seen on social media earlier tonight, there was some discussion, okay, is it weakening at all? What we've seen is not a super well-defined eye because it's so small. We've seen it as small as 2 miles across and as large as 5 miles across. So we've seen some intensity fluctuations. We've seen some fluctuations in the ultimate, here we go. So it just crossed. So, yep, I think. Yes, so that is the new info. So 130 now are the winds, and this is all up to date. So that's great. So west to northwest at 16, it's moving about the same, and it's about 135 miles east southeast of Cozumel. So we've seen a little bit of leveling off, not much, still incredibly dangerous. Let me see if the new path is in here because again, the data from the Hurricane Center automatically feeds to our computer And let's see. That looks like that is the updated info. Good. Okay. So as you can see, the path hasn't changed much. We're still talking about a Category 3 hurricane potentially at landfall on Friday, somewhere in the neighborhood of 9, 10, or 11 o'clock in the evening. That part hasn't changed. We're still looking at a Category 4 on Thursday night into Friday. Let me just look at their discussion real quick. That's not out yet. So that's usually the last thing they send, by the way. And if you are a weather geek and you love to read nerdy, really super nerdy stuff, I highly recommend you read their forecast discussion from the Hurricane Center. It's on their website. Everyone can read it. There used to be a time where only the media, it was released to the media, but and forecasters. But now everybody, because of course everything is public domain nowadays. But there's always really good information in those discussions if you can kind of sift through the jargon and through the real meaty meteorological stuff. So I would highly recommend you doing that. Okay, Matt, what was the question that you asked me? I'm going to check Facebook as well. Oh, okay. So Matt's saying, and I do see it on Facebook, John Danger is asking, will it shift to Houston? Houston's definitely not out of the woods yet. And then someone else was asking, would it go to Tennessee? And again, too early to say. Whether the other states that are going to be directly in the crosshairs of Delta, because again, that's at least Saturday, Sunday, Monday scenario. Potentially yes, but a much weaker form. And of course, the biggest threat will be the immediate coastline. It has the storm surge, the wind, and the rain. And is there any more questions that you see, Matt? Or let me jump on Twitter real quick and see if I see any there. If not, I think that'll do it, because I want to get those. I want to get that path up on social media so everybody can see it. But as we can see, we've seen some slight weakening, just a little, you guys, not much, in the latest information from the Hurricane Center. That is going to be a brief blip in what will again become another very dangerous hurricane, with those winds getting up to, some indications are it could get up to 155. At least that was what the Hurricane Center was saying at 5 p.m. today. Let me see if this discussion's out yet real quick. Nope. Because I wanted to see where it was going to put the winds at. Hang on. Oh, there it is. It is out. Goodness, I'm looking at the wrong thing. So they still, they've bumped that down, but not by much. So they've taken out the 155 and they're keeping it right at 130. They expect it to make landfall within 12 hours, which we've talked about. Then it's back over into the Gulf of Mexico. Winds staying around 125, 130. We don't see another, at least at this point, we don't see another big burst of rapid intensification. So someone was asking about a Cat 5. You never rule out a Cat 5 when you're looking at a hurricane that looks like this. But it's probably not going to have enough time to get to a 5. But again, that's incidental to the folks that live in Cozumel and for the people that live in Cancun, who of the two areas, again, I think Cancun's going to bear, unfortunately, the brunt of Delta. And then it's in the Gulf for a couple of days, and then thereafter potentially back into Louisiana. All right, you guys, I think that'll do it. It is 10:52 here in Orlando, our Orlando studios. I think that'll cover us for the remainder of tonight. Don't forget the fast forecast. You can check that out in the app. I don't know if people know. We don't really advertise the fast forecast, so some of you may know about it, some of you don't. Let me show it to you real quick. So what you do is, if you are in the app and you can see this, or I don't know, Matt, can you take that full, but you're not gonna be able to see me touching the play button. So if you hit the play button, it opens up the current live broadcast. But then underneath this is, well, it's not going to show it because we're live right now, but there's a whole layer of videos, and we always post this fast forecast in the morning, and it's a great tool to show you what's the biggest news of the day from yesterday, the day before, and then what, of course, we're going to be watching today. So you can catch it by just hitting that little play button at the bottom of the app, And we have all kinds of video content in there besides the fast forecast. We have weather series that we've done. We have Star Citizen in there. We have wildfire series that we've done in there, hurricane series that we've done in there. There's all really cool, some really cool video content that you can check out in that layer of the app just by tapping that play button. All right, you guys, I think that'll do it. I just wanted to show it to you real quick. Again, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. Remember that we'll have another live update starting tomorrow morning and then throughout the day tomorrow, and then we're going to start to ramp up coverage really Thursday and Friday. Once Delta gets a little closer to the U.S., then we'll really ramp up that coverage so you guys can stay up to date. But I want to thank you guys again for hanging out on this late night. And again, we hope if you're in the Gulf Coast, you guys are making those preps, getting ready for Delta. It unfortunately has a site set on the northern Gulf Coast, it would appear, by Friday evening. We'll try to get you there as safely as we can in these next couple of days. All right, you guys, have a safe night, get some sleep, and we'll see you here tomorrow.